Cultists, this is Helios, and today I want to discuss some very heated topics in the Dead by Daylight community. One of which being the new Dead Hard change that they implemented. It was supposed to, decrease the amount of times you get exhausted on the ground and all that shit. But now they kind of just pushed the issue onto the killer side, and now it's the same issue we had with, the pallet validation, where when you get hit, you'll get the hit sound, as well as the blood splatter on the screen, and then the server will reject the hit. And the same thing happens with Dead Hard. I should have an example somewhere in that direction. But yeah, it's very frustrating for killers, and I can get why killers are upset about it. Now, I must preface this by saying I have no issue with behavior fixing things in the game that should have been working as intended a long time ago. However, I do not agree with them pushing it onto the other side just because they can't fix the main issue, which is their servers. If this was an FPS game like COD running on the servers that Dead by Daylight currently has, nobody would play that game because it would be absolutely atrociously bad with latency. But because Dead by Daylight is the game that it is, they get away with it simply because of the type of game it is. In a shooter, latency is more noticeable. In Dead by Daylight, it's only noticeable if the ping of the person you're going against is bad. Now, if you and the person you're playing against have similar ping, you really shouldn't feel too much of an issue. There is still an issue with medium vaults. Some people still get hit through them a lot, even on good ping. But I think that's more due to the fact that the hitbox lingers more on medium vaults than on running vaults, for instance. Anyway, I know that they'll probably be doing more patches in the future to combat latency issues, but in the end, the main issue is the fact that their servers are not up to date with what modern game servers should be. Another topic that's really heated in the DBD community as of right now are the Boon Totems. Now, I was skeptical at first, as the Boon Totems seemed very, very strong at launch, and I was skeptical of whether or not they'd be balanced or not. And around 30-40 games of going against Boon perks, I've come to the conclusion that there's only a couple of killers that it really affects negatively. One of those being Wraith. One-shot killers like Hillbilly, Leatherface, and Myers on a good day don't really suffer too much from it just due to the fact that they have one-shot abilities. However, killers like Wraith, for instance, rely on split pressure and a hit-and-run playstyle, which Circle of Healing directly counters. If a good team gets 2 to 3 totems up on the map against Wraith, Wraith is going to have a very tough time keeping up the pressure and keeping them off gens as well as getting downs. So if a Wraith runs something like Pop, he's not going to get a lot of value out of it if he uses that playstyle. Another killer that really doesn't care so much about Circle of Healing is Plague and Legion. Both of their powers rely heavily on getting people injured, and they're very good at doing that. Plague, for instance, completely counters healing in general, rendering the perk completely useless. Some higher tier killers won't necessarily see the effects of it either, such as Nurse Spirit and Blight, just because of their sheer downing power in the right hands. I may have reacted a little bit too harshly when I first saw Boon Totems, but now that I've been playing against them for a while, I don't think they're that big of a deal. I do still think there should be a token system similar to Distortion, where you get maybe 2 tokens at the start of the match, and for each Boon Totem you place, regardless of how many Boon perks you have, it'll consume a token. Once both tokens are gone, the perk will be disabled, similar to how Distortion works currently. I think this will make them a little bit more fair, and a little bit more skill-oriented, as you'll have to hide your boons a little bit more. And last but not least, the topic that I want to talk about the most is the polarization of the DBD community as of late. Now me, I consider myself a killer main. However, I do play both sides extensively, as you guys would see if you watch my streams often. The amount of hatred and name-calling I've seen on Twitter, as well as on some people's streams and YouTube comments, is staggering. And you're almost talked down to like you're stupid most of the time. Nobody can have debates in the community because they immediately get shot down as a entitled killer main or an entitled survivor main. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely entitled people in the community, but I do think everybody's opinion is valuable and should be heard. This constant shooting down of opinions does not make it very easy for behavior either, because the changes that they make semi-rely on the community feedback. If everybody is simply screaming at each other and giving them false messages, then nothing of value will be done to the game. This update is one of the few updates that they've released in a while where we can tell that they actually put a lot of effort into it and actually listen to a lot of community feedback. Now, there needs to be some tweaks, and I'm sure they've over-nerfed Deathslinger a little bit, but for the most part, a lot of the things they did to this update were really good for the game. Spirit's nerf actually makes her very fun to play against, and the last couple games that I've had were still very fun and enjoyable. I haven't had this fun against Spirit in ever. It does no good to yell at each other, it does no good to be patronizing, and it does no good to be overall just mean over a video game. No matter how you perceive somebody's in-game actions, like tunneling, camping, teabagging, flashlight clicking, whatever you want to call it. People's in-game actions should not define who they are. What matters is how you treat people outside of the game. As long as you say, good game, move on, and don't say anything negative, you're on the right track. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope you guys have an amazing Wednesday, and if you would, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me greatly, pushes me up in the algorithm, and gives me motivation to make more videos for you guys. Go ahead and hit that notification bell down below, that way you get notified when I upload. Anyway, that's it from me. Have a good day.